Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access Breaking News Edition. You can check us out over at patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. Also, wherever you get your podcast, you can find this show in podcast form. Just search Packer Fan Total Access or Packers Total Access. Should get you to the same place. We're live here on X, YouTube, Rumble, and Facebook with a little bit of NFC North breaking news. You guys and gals may have already heard about this, I'm sure, as the Detroit Lions seem to be having a little bit of a fire sale up there. It's amazing. They go from Super Bowl window wide open to down year, and now all of a sudden they're trading away some of their key players, and one, of course, in David Montgomery. We're going to talk about what they're losing in that running back in this episode. We're going to talk about what happened to the Sonic and Knuckles hype. Everybody was talking about this was the best running back duo in the NFL. Now all of a sudden Lions fans are kind of changing and shifting their emotions to, he wasn't that good anyway. He was taking carries away from Jahmyr Gibbs. It's hilarious how the narrative changes so quick with the Detroit Lions. And I think we're probably pressing back into leaning back towards SOL, same old Lines. Before we get into everything, if y'all would do that YouTube stuff for me, hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning into PTA, welcome. Thank you for making us a part of your afternoon. We are not experts. We're not insiders. We're not media members. We are fan-driven, for the fans, by the fans, just in here talking Packers on a daily basis. So if you're looking for that type of content, make sure you hit that like button, hit subscribe, and click the bell icon. So let's get into it here, man. Adam Schefter had the initial report. And he originally put a tweet out that said the Lions are sending running back David Montgomery to the Texans for a 5th-round pick per sources. Probably got a little bit out in front of his skis there. Came back, quote tweeted and said, updated compensation. The Texans will get running back David Montgomery. The Lions get a 4th-round pick, a 7th-round pick, and offensive lineman Juice Scruggs. Okay, now if you don't know who Juice Scruggs is, we'll talk about who he is on the backside. Let's first key in on David Montgomery. I want to say this too. If the plan was to not have David Montgomery on the team moving forward, you're just going to cut him outright. If there was no way, no how he was coming back, it sounded like he was a little bit upset with his workload. He was an effective back last year. I'm going to be real, man. As a Packers fan, I seen this and went, that's great news for us. I'm sure Bears fans agree. I'm sure Vikings fans agree. That 1-2 punch of David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, we talked about it going into Lions week. It's like, man, we got to figure out how to stop this run game. Every time that we played them this week or this year, it was like, you have got to figure out how do you stop this running back duo first and foremost, and then you worry about Jared Goff on the backside, right? So, again, I think it's a huge loss for the Lions. It sounds to me, though, like they're going, you know what? Let's trade away one of our best players, okay? Definitely a top 5 player on their roster. I feel comfortable saying that. Definitely top 10, maybe not top 5 in some people's eyes. We'll talk about the stats. But you only getting back a 4th-round pick, a 7th-round pick, and an offensive lineman that I think he was ranked 118th at his position, like nowhere near starting caliber offensive lineman, right? And, of course, as news broke just a second ago, right as we went live, Pro Football Talk had actually tweeted out about 30 minutes ago, I guess. The Lions also are releasing offensive lineman Graham Glasgow. Now, Lions fans immediately say, oh, he ain't that good either. I can't remember how many starts he had over the last 3 years. It was a significant amount of starts. It was something like over 30 starts, over 20 starts, something like that. So it's someone that obviously you look back 2 years ago and the Lions fans were probably pretty big on Graham Glasgow as well. Now they're moving on, and he's trash as well. So, again, that is the trade. Let's talk about what they're losing in David Montgomery. According to PFF, he was tied for the 26th highest offensive grade amongst all running backs. Again, anything in the top 32 is starting caliber. It's running back 1, RB1 on an NFL roster caliber, right? 75.3 is a solid grade. 77.0 running grade, if I remember correctly there. Or maybe it's a 72.5. Regardless, you got a guy who is still playing great football. Now, is he as good as Jahmyr Gibbs? Probably not, right? They're 2 different backs. That's why they called them Sonic and Knuckles, right? I loved on the McAfee show earlier this year when they started to struggle to get the running game going at times before they fired their OC. Someone on Overreaction Monday, actually, and it was a Lions fan, actually tweeted out, Sonic and it's what do you say? Sonic and Knuckles more like ass and cheeks is what he said, right? So obviously Lions fans have started to turn on that running back duo, and then they came back down the stretch strong. Of course, David Montgomery a little bit disgruntled with his role in that offense, I guess you could say. Moving along here, 21st in yards per carry. Again, guys, those are solid numbers. I mean, David Montgomery, he averaged 4.5 yards per carry, and that was 21st best in the National Football League. Again, RB1 numbers. You're talking about 4.5 yards per pop every time you hand him the ball, right? Solid numbers there. In rushing yards over expected, let's get into some of the advanced metrics, right? Some of the next-gen stats, if you will, right? Rushing yards over expected, he was actually 11th best in the league. Notice the name on this list as well. For the Lions fans who all of a sudden think David Montgomery, he's disposable. He's not as good as some people think he is, right? He actually had more rushing yards over expected at plus 0.8 than Jahmyr Gibbs at plus 0.7. And again, David Montgomery was tied for 11th best in the league, along with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, which is obviously Bill Krosky-Merritt, and then Travion Henderson from the New England Patriots. So again, tied for 11th in rushing yards over expected. Let's talk about yards after contact. He was actually 18th in the league in yards after contact, averaging 3.4 yards after contact, along with Ramondre Stevenson, Chase Brown, DeAndre Swift of the Bears. I think we all agree is a solid back as well, right? Quinshon Judkins, who was a stellar young player there, limited snaps this year, but Tyler Algier, I think is how you say the name, Algier. And then you've got Travion Henderson there at 3.4 as well. Guys, put that into perspective. Your Super Bowl MVP, Kenneth Walker III. Some people think he was the best running back in the league this year. Like I've heard that mentioned when it comes to Kenneth Walker. I think he had the highest PFF offensive grade amongst all running backs this year. Kenneth Walker, the third, out of Seattle, he only averaged 3.3 yards after contact. Now, again, I say only because he's actually behind David Montgomery. This idea that all of a sudden David Montgomery's bad because the Detroit Lions don't want him is just simply false. He was still playing good football. The Lions are going to miss him. They're going to miss him on this roster. I would guarantee it. Now, moving along, the center that they got in return. This is Juice Scruggs. I know some of the Lions fans are now shifting their focus and go, oh, yeah, but we got an offensive lineman and 2 picks. Here's the offensive lineman they got, okay? His PFF grade since he came in the league, his rookie year, 47.5. He jumped to 63.5, and then he fell right back to 45.0. And again, his snaps his rookie year, 534, 944 his second year. This year, 351 for Juice Scruggs. Okay, so that's the offensive lineman that they pick up. Again, we also talked about Pro Football Talk tweeting out they released Graham Glasgow, so you're kind of replacing Graham Glasgow with Juice Scruggs. Some people are saying Juice Scruggs could potentially play center, that they're getting a center in return, right? All he's played, to the best of my knowledge, is guard this past year. Now, maybe he played guard his first couple years in the league. Regardless, the stats have been cheeks here, right? Former second-round pick. It tells me they thought really highly of him. Well, Houston did as well. Obviously, that did not work out. So that's the offensive lineman the Detroit Lions are getting in return, along with a 4th and a 7th-round pick. Now, take it a little bit deeper. Let's talk about where he ranks amongst guards with that 45.0 PFF grade. He is tied for 119th. All right, 119th. What does that tell you? All right, there's 32 teams. Let's times that by 2. That's 64. Anybody in the top 64 is considered starting caliber, okay? Let's do the math. Let's go down again. It'd be, 96 to get to, the bottom of the barrel when it comes to the third string, right? Well, at 96, he didn't even crack the top 96. You're talking about a guy who is essentially a 4th string player, right? A 3rd to 4th string player is what they're getting in return here with a 45.0, if indeed you put a lot of stock into PFF grades. Now, we didn't go as far as looking at the efficiency grade, but again, what you've got here is they're having a fire sale. They traded away David Montgomery, one of their most beloved players. That's what cracked me up about Lions fans. And I had somebody say, there's nobody saying that. I literally rattled off on Twitter 7 consecutive tweets of Lions fans saying that very thing, minimizing, downplaying the fact that they're trading away David Montgomery. The point is, Lions fans don't want to acknowledge that that window closed, and now they've got to try to rush this process of opening that Super Bowl window back up. Boy, it was short-lived, wasn't it? Now the question is, what happens with Jared Goff? Do you press forward with Jared Goff and expect him to stabilize or get better as he gets older in age here? Or do you go in a different direction? You know, they already lost the heart and soul of their team last year with the center that retired, right? Was it Ragnow, if I remember correctly? Started to come back and then couldn't make the comeback. Obviously, the injuries caught up with him. And again, as Pro Football Talk said, Graham Glasgow's out the door. So it seems like the Detroit Lions are trying to take a step back, reset, get rid of some pieces to try to allocate a 4th and a 7th round pick. Is that what's going to just propel them into the Super Bowl window? You're losing one of your best players on your roster, and you're picking up a 4th and a 7th. Who do you plan on getting in the 4th or the 7th round that's going to offset you losing David Montgomery and now Graham Glasgow? And again, I don't know, maybe Graham Glasgow's cheeks. I want to say they freed up $5 million. So the fact that he started so many games for them tells me they seen him as a starter, right? So it seems like the Lions are essentially in rebuild mode is what it looks like here. So going to be absolutely wild to see how everything unfolds there. And again, we had this conversation, if you guys will remember, we had this conversation going into the offseason, right? And we said, now we get to see how good Dan Campbell is. You know, everybody loves Dan Campbell. He's out of this world. I personally like him. I like his coaching style. But what I said was, now we get to see how he is able to adapt to what Matt LaFleur has had to deal with this whole time. And you're going, what do you mean? What are you talking about, Clayton? Replacing a Hall of Fame quarterback? They've never had a Hall of Fame quarterback. No. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about losing coordinators. You know, how many times has Matt LaFleur had to replace coordinators, right? How many times that Nathaniel Hackett got poached from him to go to Denver? He had to replace him. And then another OC. And then they lose a quarterback. Matt LaFleur has constantly had to replace guys on his coaching staff. Last year, you guys remember, Coach Anthony Campanelli, who coached the linebackers, right? He ends up getting a job with the Jacksonville Jaguars as the new DC. So you still got Jeff Hafley, but you got to replace arguably your strongest positional coach in Anthony Campanelli. I think we would all agree the linebackers, Edgerrin Cooper, not in 2025, but 2024 when Coach Campanelli was here coaching him. Boy, he had a heck of a rookie season. Took a slight step back last year, right? So Matt is constantly having to find replacements for all of these coaches, mainly on offense, because his play calling, his offense is always in the top 10, always in the top 5 in passing. This last year was top 5 in passing. So you see these other teams that are coming in and poach. I mean, they bypass so many former offensive coordinators, they being, I think it was the Philadelphia Eagles that hired Sean Mannion, right? They bypass so many offensive coordinators, so many passing game coordinators to go, you know what? Let's go to Green Bay and get their young, bright offensive mind that Matt LaFleur has buried in that coaching staff and Sean Mannion. You come over here and you're going to be our play caller and our OC, right? So Matt LaFleur's got to replace that again this year. This constant recycle. What I said going into the season, we get to see what Dan Campbell really has. He's going to be without Ben Johnson getting the head coaching job at Chicago. He's going to be without Aaron Glenn, who got the head coaching job with the Jets. And then let's see what Dan Campbell can actually do. What happened? They took a huge step back. And not only did they take a huge step back, the Packers swept them this year. Love going back and pulling the receipts on all those Lions fans that were so damn loud leading into the season. Pull those receipts. They took a huge step back, and now here comes the fire. So again, we'll see. Maybe it gets loud on Dan Campbell next year. Imagine this time next year if the Lions miss the playoffs. Imagine if that happens. They're kind of cutting bait with some of these pieces that were they were important last year. Now they're not, right? According to Lions fans. But now you get to kind of see, all right, what does Dan Campbell do here in year 2? He ends up firing his OC that replaced Ben Johnson, and he started calling plays, right? And the offense wasn't their problem. Don't get me wrong here. They had a solid offense, but what's going to happen to the Lions moving forward? All those 4th down calls that kept piling up. We talked about in our power rankings here on PTA. Man, when you look at the Lions ranking, they look good other than win-loss percentage. Well, why are they losing so many games if they're ranked so well in other aspects? because they're making stupid decisions on the coaching staff, going forward on fourth down when they should just be taking points and learning how to win close games, right? That's a coaching problem. If we look up next year and the Lions did not make the playoffs, mark my words, Dan Campbell will be on the hot seat. And I think this is the early stages in that, if that makes sense. Chuck Jaggers in the chat says, I hope the Lions fans haven't thrown away those brown bags. You know they haven't, man. You know they haven't. They've still got them in the fold. I guarantee it. J. Cole says Clayton got these Lions fans crashing out. LO. It's hilarious, man. That energy changes real quick, Jay, real quick. And they come out of the woodwork, and every one of them, it's the same thing. They got 2 followers, which tells me that's a burner account. That's somebody we probably had to block in the past because they've made a stupid ass comment, right? And all of a sudden, here they come, bang, with the egg, right? The egg profile. You love to see it over on the old Twitter fear. But yeah, it's funny watching them, man. Again, it's from a fan base. I went from as a Packer fan, right? I went from looking at Lions fans like, man, I can appreciate the fact that they're still rooting for their team and they've been bad for so long. And then the second they win the division, you would have thought they have multiple Lombardi trophies in their case, right? And all of a sudden they're puffing their chest out like, yeah, look at us, look at us. And now all of a sudden we're right back to SOL. You love to see it. Love to see it. Chris Ann says another nice pickup for the Texans. Pound you on defense, now on offense as well. Completely agree, Chris. Completely agree. Get him a complimentary back. Learn how to control the clock. Pound the rock. Beef up that offense. The defense is already solid, right? One of the best defenses in the league there. Obviously, they got a great defensive coaching staff. So this is going to be cool, man. It's going to be cool to see what Houston does. I'm also excited about Arizona, man. There's a little bit of buzz around Malik Willis potentially signing with the Arizona Cardinals. We'll see. Free agency's right around the corner. We'll be covering every step of the way here. But the fact that Malik Willis potentially signing a contract that gives him generational wealth and couldn't happen to a better person, a better human being. As we've seen, it was just Combine week. We all seen the video resurface of Malik Willis at the Combine before, didn't know anybody was filming, stopped on the street, gave some clothes out of his suitcase to a homeless guy. Like, that's the type of person he is. And now there's rumors that Arizona might be interested in him. And guess who the new coach is there, right? Matt LaFleur's brother. So Malik Willis going into a very similar system that he just played really, really good as a backup quarterback for the Packers. In return, the Packers are going to get a comp pick, most likely a third-round pick, depending on what else they do in free agency. I think it's a win-win. And now we get to root for the Cardinals when they're not playing the Packers, or obviously not playing for the same playoff spot, I should say, right? So going to be interesting down there. That might be a state. Wherever Malik Willis signs, I will be rooting for them in every game but one. And that's, of course, if they play the Packers for sure. So completely agree. So, Turtles. Willis is all class he is, man. He deserves the best, dude. He deserves the best. Chris N says Malik just sounds right in Miami to me. I could see that too, Chris. I'd be totally cool with that. Rooting for Jeff Hafley in the AFC along with Malik Willis. Who knows? Maybe Romeo Doubs ends up there too. That would be exciting. Obviously, you got a bunch of the defensive coaching staff that follow Jeff Hafley down there. That would be a lot of fun to see that happen as well. So I'm curious to know what you guys think in the comments. If you're watching this back later, let us know. How do you feel about the Detroit Lions fans crashing out over this? Changing their tune, whatever you want to say, as David Montgomery has been traded, was once considered the heart and soul of that offense, and now all of a sudden, like a fart in a fan factory, he gone, right? Let us know in the comments. How do you feel about it? Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon as well so you catch all the future live streams. We will be back tomorrow or maybe tonight if other news breaks, man. It's heating up. A lot of cuts happening, a lot of free agents flying out there on the market. We'll keep you up to date every step of the way. My name's Clayton. This is PTA. Go Pack Go.
Here we go.
We're out. Bye, guys.